We're back again to talk about, is marriage still worth it?
Mm.
Today we're going to dig in a little bit on the expectations around marriage. So if you're with a person or you're on your path to getting a person, you don't understand what to expect, stay tuned. You might learn something. Hello there, Safehouse
What's
family.
up, Safehouse? Yeah.
And another episode, another time together, another discussion.
We are back. Yes.
As we do every couple of weeks. We hope you've been enjoying the discussion. We've got a lot of electricity around this topic about marriage still being worth it.
A lot of electricity.
And we're going to be real. There's a lot that folks say it's worth it, and other folks that say it's worth it, but not worth it for them.
Right.
Which is really, really interesting.
I think it was interesting because for the people who said that it wasn't worth it for them, it was just out of experience.
Yeah.
Like for the singles, it was the dating pool.
Yeah.
It was, okay, physical intimacy versus emotional intimacy.
That's a complicated way of saying, these folks out here want to get it really quick.
Right, very quickly. Exactly.
Yeah, so, hey, how you doing when we about to do this, right?
Yeah.
So it's like there's not a whole lot of ifs, ands, and buts, not a lot in between.
Exactly.
Not a whole lot of romance, not a lot of dating, courting, none of that, right?
It's like we haven't even went out on our first date yet.
Right.
But just in that first conversation, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And so when you have so many of those, you're like, you know what? Yeah, the idea of, I think, finding your forever person, you're just kind of like, I'm tired, And so that was kind of like the impression too that I got from a lot of the comments, that some people are just tired. And I think the same thing happens too when you're married. People who decide, especially when you've been married for a long period of time, you get tired. You look up and because to me, one of the things about marriage is you should be growing together, or we definitely should not be encountering the same issues that we encountered early on in marriage.
Right.
And so when you've been married like 15, almost 20 years, and you find yourself still hashing out some of the things that you dealt with between years 5 and 10, you get tired.
Yeah.
And you're like, and at that point, you just feel like it's not worth it. And even in some of the comments, what I discovered was some people just stay. Like the single people felt like they didn't really want to be married because they didn't want to settle.
Okay.
Sorry about that. They didn't want to settle.
Okay.
So they just I'll just be by myself versus just taking any Joe Schmo. Or, or Julietta, whatever, They didn't want to settle. But for the married couples, I mean, unless things were like really terrible, because now we have so much stuff together, it was just easier to stay. I'll just stay, be unhappy, or whatever, because now whatever I thought marriage was supposed to bring, it's not bringing to me. And maybe this is just my lot in life. And so so to answer that question, do I think marriage is worth it? There's the yes and the no.
Yeah.
Because I still have the stability, the bills are still getting paid or whatever, but I'm unhappy at the same time.
Yeah. It's funny when you sort of separate it out, like you said, to the exasperated, so the tired, the exasperated, you have that category. It's not that marriage is not worth it. They're just sort of like, they've tapped out. They've given up. It's just like, whatever.
Absolutely.
I'm in this situation. It is what it is. It's like you saw the movie 12 Years a Slave, where she was like, I'm going to have to die to get out of this situation. You had some people so that's one category. And then you have the other category that's like on the outside of marriage that are saying, you know what, don't think I'm going to sign up for that. Right. And then you have, once again, the exasperated both inside of marriage and the exasperated outside of marriage. So you have these folks that are exasperated that say, hey, I do desire a forever person. I do desire this, but this environment that I'm in, this dating pool, the experience I'm having on dates, and some of these expectations on where the relationship would go
Mm-hmm.
after our first, sort of hello, is just put a sour taste
Yeah.
in my mouth, and I don't want to swim in this pool anymore.
Yeah. We kind of talked about that, like, I think it was like a few nights ago. And of course, it was kind of morbid, but I said that if something happened to you, I would not get remarried.
Mm.
And of course, you were like, well, I'm dead. You should go ahead. And I was like, no, I mean, because once again, the environment, I'm like, we've been together for 35 years,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's more than half of my life,
Yeah.
and just the idea of, first of all, I'm not going to find anybody else like you. Let me just say that.
You're setting me up, right? Because the folks in the comments are like, he's not saying nothing.
You are the love of my life.
I thank you.
I am definitely blessed that God has given us over 35 years. So the idea of finding that again,
yeah,
I mean, and even wanting to find that again. So I'm not even sure if I'd want to jump back in.
Yeah.
And do that.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, right? I don't know. One, I'm a acquired taste, right, to deal with, right? There's not.
He's my taste, but he is definitely an acquired taste.
Not everybody can deal with me, right? Not everybody can deal with my quirks and my issues and my random rants and my grumpiness and all of these other things, right? You got to be made from a special material. Not that I'm a prize or anything like that, but I have a lot of faults. And
just like me too.
Yeah. And so, going through the process of trying to, learn that with somebody, and I would. It's not something that draws me. It's just like, okay, I'll just live my life. If something would have happened.
And just saying that's the same thought mentality that a lot of single people have.
Yeah,
they're like, why would I even go through that exercise of doing all of that?
Yeah.
And like you said, and for the people who are married and they're exasperated, they're thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
They're thinking like, why? You want to get off the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
But it's like, how do we even change that?
Yeah. And so kind of draw it back to the one thing I can say, for as far as we've lived and as long as we've been together, we have made steps towards our purpose.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I'm not saying that, if something should happen to me, God wouldn't create another purpose for you with someone. You can't say what God won't do. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But unlike a person that's never walked in purpose with another person, I think they are missing an element to fulfilling their life's call.
Mm-hmm.
In pursuing that purpose, whatever that may be, right?
Yeah.
And so I think there's a little bit of a difference there. If God should call one of us home, that it's like, okay, we did what you asked us to do,
right? And I think that's very powerful about what you said about because to me that's one of the distinctions of marriage.
Yeah,
is fulfilling your purpose in life with another person.
Yeah.
Creating something new. We kind of talked about that too, about how in the book of Genesis, when it talks about how man and woman become one flesh,
right.
And you creating something new. And so it's not easy to create something new.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's not easy for two independent lives to come together and now create something new. But I firmly believe that when God designed marriage, that's exactly what he wanted. His intention was for a man and a woman to get together and become one to create something new. And there's some mystery, obviously, behind that, because we're still two different people, but in that oneness, we are creating something new.
Yeah, and what you say is absolutely true. If I have a Christian worldview, right?
Right.
Which unfortunately, having a Christian worldview today, it's being a Christian with a real Christian worldview. I think you're you're part of a very select group of people.
Right.
You're
I
part
agree
of a
with that.
minority,
Right.
right? And even as Christians, I don't know if we go into the concept of marriage with the Christian worldview. Yeah, we say some of the words,
Yeah,
we
we take vows. We take
take
real serious
vows. We want to
vows.
have it in a
Yeah.
church. We want it to be viewable. We want the
Mm-hmm.
nice video that comes along with it. We want the pastor to give us rubber stamp counseling.
We want hashtags.
We,
That's the new thing
we want a
now.
hashtag, right, when we get together. But the whole concept of, wait a minute, I believe there's a purpose in me creating something new with a person that God has designed for me. We don't go into it with that,
Right.
right? So that's even in the church. Outside of the church, I don't know if there's any social construct where we learn about togetherness and purpose for a person we're seeking, right? We kind of
That's
look
true.
at it from a what can I get perspective. I know even when I'm, we talked last week about when I made the decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even with that, it was more about me saying, okay, I'm a young fool, and one day I'm going to be an old fool.
Right.
Therefore, I need to stop being foolish and consider my
Mm-hmm.
life, right? But that was still very me-centered,
Yeah.
right? And we all go into these relationships with a very me-centered view. And I'm not saying that that's 100% bad, but I can tell you with that sort of view, it creates longevity challenges.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was thinking about it. Obviously, I teach.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was thinking about it in terms of what the kids this week were doing a group project.
Okay.
How many people like group projects?
Nobody does.
Nobody's raising their
Because there's
hand.
always somebody that doesn't do nothing, right? You get a group project and there's always one or two, and I'm usually in the one part of the one or two that does the work, and then everybody else just sloughs off. You got one that I don't know what to do. They just play dumb, right? And wait for some, and then, or the one to say they're going to do something, and then you ask them for their stuff and they still don't have it. Yeah, I hated group projects.
Marriage is a group project.
It is a group project.
I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because there are going to be, and this kind of goes back to the expectations.
Yeah.
There's going to be times where one person may be carrying it 100%.
This is true.
It might be 70% to 30, and you can't get frustrated with that. And then the other time it could flip. It could be you're doing 70% and I'm doing 30%.
Yeah.
But I think that was just the best way I could think about it. Like I said, and some people who struggle with group projects, you're going to struggle with marriage. You are just going to struggle with marriage. You're going to be like, you know what? Forget it. I'll just do it myself. I don't have time for all of that. I'm my own best partner.
That's revelation right there.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you figure. We were being taught a lesson and we didn't even realize it, right? When we're doing those group projects. And I remember teachers used to say, this is going to be your work environment or whatever have you. No one ever brought up marriage, but it's a dynamic in life that you're going to be part of a team where people are going to be pulling less than others, right? And as much as I abhorred group projects, because I knew I could nail it on my own, right? Going through that process actually teaches you how to either be patient with others, pull others along, have grace for other people.
Absolutely. It makes you open to their ideas. Like I said, I wouldn't have done it that way, but you know what? This is your part of the project. So I'm going to let you do your part of the project.
Yeah. Even holding people accountable, right? It teaches you to have uncomfortable conversations, right?
Yeah.
And even if you don't walk away from the project with the best grade, that whole process teaches you a life lesson.
Come on. Yeah. Let's just be honest. In whether you're married or you're in a relationship, it's not going to be A's all the time.
No, it's not.
It's just not.
So give us some comments below. How good are you all with group projects? Right. I knew I hated them. But obviously, group projects teach you something.
They do.
And when it comes to your expectations for your forever person, whether you're in a relationship now or you're seeking that, are you prepared to be part of a group project?
Because when you take those vows in front of everybody, and like you said, you're in the church and you're before God and your whole family, you're saying, me and you, we're taking on this group project. And the group project begins to expand when you have kids. You have in-laws. One of the things, and we just talked about this, is like, I understood that even when we were dating
Yeah.
and the conversations that we had regarding our families,
Mm-hmm.
and you said to me, you're like, listen, me and my mom, we're a group. We're a group.
We're a package
we're
deal.
a package deal.
Yeah.
We're together.
Yeah.
So my dad passed away. I promised him that I was going to take care of my mom. And so if me and you are going to be together, just know that there's a third person.
Yeah, my mom's going to be in orbit, right?
She's going to be in the orbit. And so, and that's exactly what happened. But I love that because I felt the same way about my mom, you know? And so that's pretty much how we lived our lives. Like I said, for 18 years, your mom lived with us until she transitioned to glory. And my mom, thank God, glad that she was able to live with us for 2 years, but that's kind of like how we just set it up.
Yeah.
It wasn't a secret,
right?
You know, but once again, we understood that was going to be a part of our group project.
When we bought our house, we wanted to make sure we got one with enough bedrooms for everybody, right? The kids and both moms and us, right?
And let's just be honest, a part of our group project is, I think, well, because my family is bigger than your family, I think the majority of my family has lived with us.
Right, at some point, right? They've rotated out.
They kind of like rotated in and out.
Right.
But why am I sharing that? It's because, once again, it goes back to the expectations of marriage. And it goes back to what I firmly believe is one of the designs of marriage is family.
Yeah.
You know, when we get together, you know, we're now family.
Yeah.
You know, you said to me, you know, after your mom passed away, you said, man, I don't have any more family. But when God put Adam and Eve together, he was creating a new family.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't biological, you know, like connected, but he was connecting them in a new way. And like I said, and me and you even had to have that discussion, like, I'm by myself now. I'm like, no, you got me, you got the kids, you got my brothers and sisters, because they look at you like, you know, like you're their brother. My dad looks at you like you're his son. So we have family. And so when I look at that, I think about, that's how God is saying, be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah.
And I know, like you said, we keep coming back to the spiritual piece, but I think that's what everybody wants. There's something on the inside of us that wants to be a part of a family.
Yeah.
So whether we're now have friends and we're like, oh yeah, that's my auntie, but we're really not. But because once again, why? Because we like being a part of a family.
Yeah. Yeah. We have an innate need to not be alone.
Absolutely.
Even though you have folks like me that are introverted, right? That I do need to be alone sometimes. I don't want to be alone all the time. Right.
Right.
You know, and you know, for those out there that may not be as spiritually mature, I know you're going through the process of saying, what's the value? Why? You know, there's something in you that even though you're okay and you've become okay with being alone, there's a part of you that still craves some level of connection, some level of family, some level of something. And that is going to not be satisfied as long as you sort of avoid the whole idea of connection. Right. Doesn't mean you can't cope with that, you know, because just like God calls some of us together, he's called some of us to singleness, right?
Yeah, that is true.
That is a walk, right?
Yeah,
that is a real thing.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. Yeah, real thing too.
But that does not negate that within us we have a need to be connected, to be a family, to build a house, to build these things together. So, you know, more comments below. Give us some thoughts about that. How do you feel about connection and family?
Yeah.
Right? And even coming back to the question of expectations, do we have the right expectations around what marriage brings? You know, is part of the reason people don't value marriage or value long-term relationships anymore is because we're expecting something out of it that it wasn't necessarily designed to give primarily.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
You know, and we get disappointed that it doesn't give us this thing that it was never designed to give us.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. Like you said, some people, you know, it's kind of like when sometimes people have babies. Like, well, the baby's going to make me happy. You know?
Right. Or you know, the famous one, the baby is going to bring us together.
Right.
You have a lot of young ladies out there that are single mothers that thought the baby was going to change the mind of the guy.
Absolutely.
And she ended up being a single mom, right?
Marriage is not a guarantee that you stay together. What marriage says is that you're committed to making sure that you stay together. That's what it is. And, like you said, because anything can happen. And I'm not just, like you said, we married today and not tomorrow,
Yeah.
because that's at the end of the day, that's still all up to God, But once again, like you said, you get married with the intention to stay. But then, like you said, it's work because you have to be committed
Mhm.
to making sure that we stay together, that we live up to our vows, and I'm not saying, the vows of, because you're taking them in front of God. I'm just saying, I vow to be with you.
Mhm.
Um, if I'm standing in front of the judge at City Hall
Mhm.
and I'm vowing to be with you in sickness and in health and,
Mhm.
until death do us part, you know, my goal is to make sure that, that's what I'm doing, and I have to be intentional about that every day, and so, like you said, that's what, to me, that's the biggest distinction of and an expectation of marriage. That's the expectation I'll say I have of myself. Like making sure that for as long as I'm here, as long as God gives us our opportunity to be together, I wake up every day with the intentional act of making sure that we stay together.
Well, so here's a little challenge then. So our spiritually mature selves, that's the way we think today, right? Was that anywhere near any of the thought process 30 some years ago, right? And
Well,
and
no.
and and once again, there's folks out here watching this video that don't necessarily have the benefit of years of Christian experience,
Yeah.
right? Or the years of spiritual maturity, right? That cause spiritual maturity just says straighten up and fly right, right? They got other things going on, right?
Oh no,
And
I totally agree with you on that.
so I guess the question I'm asking myself is, what would get them to see the value? How could we position this such that, they would understand? And to me, there's a couple of perspectives, right? Obviously, we have the spiritual components, right? And
Mhm.
and frankly, we believe one of the missing things is people don't look at this spiritually enough.
Right.
you know,
Absolutely. Right.
that there is a whole lot of sort of what's in it for me and
Mhm.
what can I get and what
Right.
do I expect
Mhm.
and a lot of expectations around what we're going to get, and we don't look at it spiritually enough. But there are practical benefits to building a life with somebody even beyond just the spiritual things, right?
Mhm.
When we look at how to build something together, it's always better with a team,
Oh yeah,
right?
absolutely.
When you
Yeah.
have two individuals, and this is why dating process is important to really discover and talk about these things.
Mhm.
When we have a common goal or a common purpose, or we discover a common goal and pursue it together, now we have two minds
Yeah.
that can work on that thing versus one,
Mhm.
right? We have a place to contrast our ideas.
Mhm.
Um, we have two individuals that are able to acquire resources
Mhm.
to
Absolutely.
fuel
Yeah.
things, right? We have two situations. We have two families
Yeah.
that come together, and now and it's kind of funny because you look in the old days, families would come together and they would buy whole sections of
Oh
land,
yeah, absolutely. And everybody
and everybody would live on
lived
the
that
land,
way.
right? They'd build houses
Mhm.
together, and families were known in whole towns, right, to
Yeah.
have the whole section.
Yeah.
Or you see families, and you see some of it today, where families, would have a whole church. That's kind of
Oh
the
yeah.
nucleus of the church,
Absolutely. Yeah.
is the family,
Mhm.
right? And so that whole idea of joining forces,
Yeah.
the whole
I like that.
idea
Yeah.
of building a team for this thing, right? Beyond, once again, all of the spiritual, very abstract things, there is a value to you individually and collectively when we have a team, even when it comes to power in your community.
Yeah.
Just think about that. A lot of us don't really understand, a lot of people don't really understand the political
Yeah.
thing, right?
Mhm.
Regardless of where you sit politically, right? Having an individual where you can discuss political views, you know, the big ballot, judges, all
Yeah.
these things, being able to discuss those things so that you can have local political impact,
Mhm.
right? two people better than one in that regard.
And that's like you said, that's the real key. Two people are better than one. Like you said, which is, like you said, I keep going back to Genesis, which is why God made two people.
Yeah.
Because he sees the value in, like you said, two people and two people working together to do, to bring about the purpose and the mission, And so, like you said, it's a sad state, like you said, when when you get to the point where you're like, I'm just better by myself.
Yeah.
But I still think that there's this ache on the inside of us that even when I'm by myself, you still want to be with somebody because we just weren't created
to be alone.
To be alone.
So we're going to keep wrestling this issue to the ground, Safehouse. This is a many layered onion.
Yeah.
In terms of, is marriage still worth it? Why should I even pursue it? We are thriving on the comments that you're giving us.
Absolutely.
Feedback you're giving us both online and offline. We publish this on multiple platforms, and so between the feedback we've gotten on YouTube and some of the other platforms, it has been overwhelming. So keep that coming. Because we really, our ultimate goal in this is to really reestablish the value.
Yeah.
To encourage people to pursue this in a healthy way, and to reap the benefits and really start to do things, in our communities, locally, in families. Wouldn't it be a wonderful thing if people can start to establish houses and dynasties and things like that again? We don't use that language.
We don't.
We
really don't.
Right. But, when we talk about, big dynasty type families like the Rockefellers and the Kennedys and these other, the whole concept of being able to create that sort of thing where your name and your family name lasts for generations, that's all born through two people deciding.
Yeah.
We're going
to become one.
Become one.
I remember, this is the last thing I'm going to say. Like I said, after we had gotten married, and I'm just using this because you said the name, it was like one of the first things that I was probably most excited about being married was changing my name. And saying now whatever we're creating, it's under the banner of Allen. Because some people think that they're losing.
They hyphenate their name or they'll keep their name.
I was very excited, like you said, about that, the concept of whatever we're getting ready to do now, it's going to be under that new name of Allen. Yeah.
All right. Trying to take it back to the original purpose here.
I love my man.
Remember, y'all, if you found value in this discussion and if you're finding value in this discussion, remember to like,
yes, please
share the video, subscribe to the channel. Please leave a comment below. Hit the bell to be notified because we're going to continue to explore and unpack this topic. We're going to have some guests on pretty soon. So we're going to get some single perspective. We're going to get some perspectives from some pastors, So we're going to have all walks of life talking about, is marriage still worth it? So we thrive on the comments below. So give us some things to think about and talk about as we unpack this topic.
Yes, please do.
And that's all we got for this episode.
That's all we got. I'm so glad we had this time together.
We're dating ourselves when you sing that song.
Well,
a lot of young people don't even know what that song is or comes from.
I just feel like singing.
Google the Carol Burnett Show.
Yes. We love you guys.
We love you all. And with that, we say peace.